All right, good afternoon. We have a quick update and a few things to briefly discuss today about some of the documents that you can actually start gathering in preparation for the beginning of what we're calling the Biden Parole Program. This is a program that will give parole or a lawful entry, a temporary lawful status to spouses of U.S. citizens who are here in the United States. Now, let's begin by making sure I've got the audio working. And I do. It's amazing. Okay, so slide number one. Let's go over some of the initial information here. This program doesn't officially begin, so applications cannot be submitted until August 19th of 2024. So if you talk to an attorney and you ask them about pricing, they may say, you know what, let's hold off on giving you actual estimates until we can see the forms, and we can see, make sure all the specific requirements are there. It's pretty common in consultations these days for this program. However, even though we can't begin filing cases, we can begin preparing for them. Now, I'm of the opinion you shouldn't be giving an attorney any money over this right now, but you on your part, you can be gathering some of the documentation we know will be needed. So let's go over what some of those things could be. Okay, first, a repeat about the eligibility for this program. You need to be married to a U.S. citizen as of June 17th, 2024. Not June 18th. If you're married on June 18th or after, you're out of luck. If you were divorced as of June 17th, that's not going to work either. You will need to have been continuously present in the United States for at least 10 years as of June 17th, 2024. So doing the math backwards, you're looking at June 16th of 2014 as an entry date. You need to have a legally valid marriage to a U.S. citizen. Okay, we talked about that. And also don't be ineligible for criminal reasons. So if you've got a bad criminal record that's going to make you ineligible for a visa without a waiver, you are not going to be eligible for this parole program. Makes sense. All right, now, you're going to need proof of your presence in the United States during the last 10 years. And we've seen a lot of these similar documents that were asked for when the DACA program began back in 2012. So rent receipts, utility bills, school records, hospital or medical records. If you have a union group, a religious organization, other organization that can give you like records about you physically being present here in the United States, that's amazing. Official records from church, right? That'll work. Money order receipts. So if you've been sending money home and you've got the receipts showing that it was purchased here, that can help. Birth certificates of your children who were born here, another great idea. Dated bank transactions. So your bank statements would be helpful, especially if you can prove that those took place here inside the United States. Deeds, mortgages, rental contracts, insurance policies, tax returns, tax receipts, employment records, all of these things you can use as proof of your presence here in the last 10 years. So essentially, you're looking for any document that's going to be created in the normal course of business, or that will exist or would have existed at the time that you can still get your hands on. You're going to need proof of a marriage to a U.S. citizen, marriage certificate. It's easy as that. Make sure you have a certified copy. The copy they give you at the ceremony is not a certified copy. You need to request that from the county clerk. It's like $12 or $13. Go buy a few copies. Go get that right away. Usually only takes a few days. So when August 19th comes around, you can be ready to rock and roll. You're going to need proof of your spouse's U.S. citizen status. So a U.S. birth certificate, again, official certified copy. That's what you want. Could also be a certificate of naturalization if they became a U.S. citizen through the immigration process. A valid passport will also work. A passport ID card, if it's not expired, that could work as well. You're going to want any valid unexpired proof of citizenship. Driver's license is not necessarily proof. A social security card is not necessarily proof because a resident can have those as well. So we really want to focus on birth certificates, certificate of naturalization, valid passport. In a rare case where you were born overseas to a U.S. citizen parent and you have your certificate of that, that is something that's called the, I want to say it's the FS-240, Certified Record of Birth Abroad. That comes from the State Department. That will work as well. Your own identity. So the person who's applying for the benefit is going to need an identity document, something issued with a photo from a government. It has to be official. Driver's license, that can work. It can be from the US or another country. You could have a passport, of course, we talked about that. But any government ID is really going to be what you want. It's not clear right now if they're going to accept a school ID. That may not be enough. Okay, so if you don't have a valid passport, contact your consulate and renew it now. Let's go to discretionary evidence. Now, parole is something that is granted on a case-by-case basis for discretion. Now, they have to say that because the regulations say it can be granted on a case-by-case basis. But I'll guarantee you what they're going to do is pretty much see that you meet the main requirements and then grant it. However, it is a requirement, though, that we submit some sort of discretionary evidence. This can be in the form of certificates of achievement, records of your employment history to show you've always been employed or frequently have been employed and are not a burden on society. Rehabilitation evidence. So if you did have something minor and you can show that you're not going to commit those same criminal errors anymore. Evidence of community service, church service, family roles. If you're a mom and you have kids and you got to take them places and you support them in their education, great. Documentation of any positive factors for you is going to be a good idea. This can also probably, we have to read the final instructions on August 19th, but in DACA and many other programs, notarized letter in favor of you from somebody else who is a U.S. citizen. That could be helpful as well, but you cannot rely solely on letters. Discretionary evidence. Let's see, was there anything else you want to talk about that? No, let's go. Oh. No, well, I guess that's it. Yeah, once you have the discretionary evidence, I mean, that's really going to be it. Now, my name is Attorney James Betzold, and I can tell you that from the last 15 years of experience of working with immigrants and immigration, we have a lot of experience with these types of programs. When DACA became a program, this is the Dreamers program, right, back in 2012, we see a lot of the same things. So here's a couple disclaimers. I don't think you should be paying an attorney today for any of this. There's nothing we can file yet, although it does appear there's going to be electronic filing available for this starting on the 19th, but we need to wait until August 19th to get further details and instructions. But you can be gathering all of the documentation that we were reviewing here today. That way, if you're going to be using an attorney or doing this yourself, you can have everything organized already, and that's helpful. One thing that I can say is that in our practice, we have helped a number of individuals with different forms of parole. Now, what we're calling Biden parole, or the parole for spouses of U.S. citizens, is going to be a somewhat generous program, right, for those who are eligible. Other programs exist. So if you're looking at this and you were tuning out at the ineligibility or at the eligibility slide we were going over, I want you to consider this. If there is some urgent humanitarian reason that we can define and share with immigration, it's possible we can apply for humanitarian parole under a different program. Okay, so this would be even if you haven't lived here for 10 years, even if you're not married to a U.S. citizen, there may be a humanitarian parole we can help you with, which already exists, and we've helped many clients with this as well. The other thing to consider is there is military parole. So if you have an immediate family member, so spouse, parent, or child, who is a member of the armed forces or was, and at least at some point had served in active duty or in active reserve status, there is a military parole benefit that's already active. We've done this for many clients as well. Most commonly, it comes up in the form of a spouse who is or was actively serving in the U.S. Armed Forces, so they can just be a veteran now. You don't have to be actively serving today. Or children who grow up, join the military, and are able to get this military parole benefit for the parents. Now, whether you get humanitarian parole, military parole, Biden parole, any of these great paroles, advanced parole if you've traveled on DACA or previously traveled on TPS with a parole type document. The real big deal behind this is that once you have a legal entry into the United States, a lawful entry, and this parole counts as a lawful entry, you then have the ability to file for what's called adjustment of status or to get your green card here in the United States if you have a family member who can then petition for you immediately. So this would typically come up in the case of an immigrant who is a parent of a U.S. citizen who's at least 21 years old and wants to petition for them once they get the lawful entry. That can happen here. They can adjust their status without having to leave the United States. It can also happen in the case of spouses, or children, right? So if you're the spouse of a U.S. citizen, and now you have this parole, well, what that means is, apart from the benefits of getting the work permit and work authorization for 3 years, you can now file your adjustment of status and obtain your green card here without leaving the United States. That's why this Biden parole, this parole for spouses of U.S. citizens, it's a pretty nice deal. Again, my name is Attorney James Betzold. Here's our phone number, 616-396-9418. Visit us on the web at either visafeliz.com or betzoldlaw.com. And we'd love to help you out with all of your immigration needs. Thank you. Thanks for joining us. Share this with your friends. Please, let's take full advantage of this program while we can.